Here's the truth about doing the work that absolutely nobody else is going to tell you. I'm the only one you can listen to and trust on. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. You know that's not me. Well, hopefully you guys know that. If you're new to the podcast, just know that's that's not my shtick. There's plenty of people, very smart people out there saying many brilliant things about the work when it comes to, moving towards your greatness, moving towards success, entrepreneurship, investing, whatever it is, right? But one of the things that I am constantly reminded of, or at least I was reminded of just very recently yet again, is that no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're working towards, the work that you do on a day-to-day basis that gets you to that place is almost always unsexy. It almost always looks boring and mundane and monotonous. And from the outside looking in, it doesn't look like much. And I was thinking about this because a couple years ago, when I left Escape Climbing, this is our manufacturing company that produces polyurethane rock climbing holds and imported hardware from overseas for indoor climbing. So definitely go check it out, escapeclimbing.com. But a number of years ago, back in 2019, 2020, I left the day-to-day operations of Escape Climbing and started focusing exclusively on Invictus Multifamily, or Invictus Capital, which is our real estate private equity firm. And at the time, when I made that transition from Escape to Invictus, I had no personal brand. I had no real digital online presence. People didn't really know who I was. Now, I had been writing science fiction and fantasy over the last couple of years, over the last decade, and I've done a bunch of that. And so I have a name there in that world, but that's not going to help you necessarily in business and what I was doing. And what I discovered was that when I left Escape, it was almost like starting all over, because nobody knew who I was. Despite the fact that I had built multiple businesses at this point and had a lot of success in life, we had built our businesses intentionally with the idea that I wanted to be anonymous. I wanted to be behind the scenes. I wanted to be rich but not famous. I had no interest in being known. And truthfully, I still don't really want to be famous. I don't want to be known. However, I recognize that the benefits of being known far outweigh, well, they don't necessarily outweigh the alternative, but for me to achieve my goals and make the impact that I want to, it's necessary for me to come out of the shadow and share more of my story. So all that's to say, at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I started posting more online and making an effort to build a digital brand and an awareness of what I do. And, if you're listening to this podcast, if you've ever checked out our YouTube channel, then you understand, we put a lot of effort into this. And the reason for this is not necessarily what people think it is. Like, a lot of people come to the YouTube channel and they think I'm just trying to monetize them through their views so I can get the Google AdSense or shill some product or sell my digital courses. And I do those things. I do have a course. I do have digital products because I stand behind and I believe that they can help people given where they are. And for me, online courses, truthfully, I think they get a really bad rap, but I don't think that there's any such thing as a bad online course. It's just a bad student. So whether or not you take the information and actually apply it. But that's a different story for a different day. All that's to say, I do have these alternative ways of monetizing the brand. But the reason why I'm building this brand is because it makes it much easier to leverage the brand into future business opportunities. I think Alex Hormozy is probably the best example of this at the moment, where he talks about his goal in putting out his content and building his brand and awareness is he wants to help you build a business to get to the point where it's doing $1 to $3 million a year in top line revenue. And then you'll give him an opportunity to invest in your company, and together you can scale it to 30, 50 or 100 million and beyond, whatever. And I think it's a brilliant strategy, right? By building his brand, it's not about monetizing in the short term. It's about the long-term opportunities that are going to come as a result of the information that he's sharing with people that can then use that free information, and then in the future he gets to benefit from it by partnering. Brilliant strategy. And it's similar for me in the sense that I wanted to, if I leave Invictus and I go to start some other business or some other opportunity, I don't know where I'm going to be in 5, 10, 15 years, then I want to not have to start over from scratch each time. I want to have a track record that people can look to, a reputation, because that's really all personal brand is it's reputation, intentional reputation building. And so in 2020, I started putting out more content, started sharing about my life, my journey, and all these things. And that was a long preamble to get back to what we started with, which is that the work almost never looks sexy. And I say this because when I started putting out content into the world, what I really struggled with, and I still struggle with this, is that like I can make this look far more interesting and like sexy than it really is. Like me sitting here talking to the camera, creating this podcast, I can make it look really interesting. And this is what we do with the YouTube channel. If you go to, find the channel, Anthony Vicino there, you can see how we intermix a lot of B-roll of our life of, walking by the river or doing jujitsu or going to the coffee shop. We make it look glamorous and cinematic and interesting because that's a visual medium and that helps quite a lot. Same with Instagram. If we can make these things look interesting. And this is why you see all these influencers like posing in front of cars and things like that, like Lambos, and because it's visually interesting and it kind of pulls people into the story a bit and makes it look sexier than it is. But the reality is that when it comes to making this podcast, making those videos, when it comes to writing a book, when it comes to running a $70 million real estate portfolio, like the day-to-day, the actual work that goes into it looks just so boring. And I was reflecting on this because some days I'm left with the sense that like if people really knew what it looked like to shoot a YouTube video or do this podcast or run a company, like I spend most of my time these days in meetings to run our real estate portfolio. Really boring meetings, not anything happening, a lot of yawning. It's not super exciting. When it comes to this podcast, I'm literally just in my office, my home office by myself, microphone in front of my face, a camera, computer screen behind me, and that's it. Like I'm just talking to myself in a room by myself. It's not sexy. When I'm writing, I take my computer, I maybe go upstairs, put my headphones on. Upstairs is like this common area so I can be maybe in a different environment, but there's nobody else up there and it's just me sitting and typing for hours. It's boring. It doesn't look like anything. And I want to share that with you because I think social media definitely can give the wrong impression of what it looks like to be an entrepreneur, or to be successful, quote unquote, whatever that even means. And so I just want you to know, like, if you're working towards your goals right now, a lot of it is just going to look boring and you're going to probably question, like, am I even doing this right? Like creating let's just say you wanted to create a Shopify store to drop ship some merchandise on Amazon, right? Like the process of going and starting the Shopify account or going to your Secretary of State to register your LLC and then going to QuickBooks to register your start inserting all your accounts and then creating a landing page, maybe getting the pictures, writing the copy, like linking up your payment processor to your bank, all these things that have to happen. Just so that you can make the sale and then fulfill on that sale. It looks incredibly boring. Like most of my time is just troubleshooting like systems behind the scene and how those systems speak to each other. It's not even like the actual creation of the product process. It's crazy to really, when you really like boil down to like how boring and like in the weeds building a business really is. But I want to share that with you so that you have an accurate expectation going into this, or if you're already there, you can be like, oh, thank God. Because like some days I just wake up and I work and then I look at the end of the day, I'm like, what did I really even accomplish, right? And so we just did a video, just released today. If you're watching this, it was released a couple months ago, all about 6 lessons I learned from essentialism. And so like it's important that we still prioritize and like have a system for making sure that we're doing the most important things and that we're not just doing meaningless things, but recognize that in the beginning, before you really have labor leverage at your beck and call, where you have employees and team members that can take a lot of the grunt work, so to speak, off of your table, you're going to be doing a lot of that stuff. And it's just going to make you feel like, is this it? Is this what I really do? And the truth is, yes, what you do is the boring work. And that's the game. The game of entrepreneurship is really just like a matter of who can sustain the boring work for the longest. I just gave you the secret. So buckle up, get ready, drink a lot of caffeine, and I hope you guys have a hell of a ride. But hopefully this brought you a little bit of value. If it did, make sure that you take a screenshot, you share it on Instagram, you tag me in it at the Anthony Vicino, or find me on Twitter, find me wherever. Would love to engage with you guys. I appreciate you being here. I'll see you back here bright and early tomorrow. But until then, my friend, stay hyper-focused.